Alright, hey guys, welcome to InFlip lesson number 2. Hopefully previous one wasn't that bad. But like the previous one, we're continuing on with media, particularly in newspapers, because that is an important part of your assessment task, which hopefully I'll have time to go through, okay? My class particularly, any questions in regards to assessment task, you are going to have to wait until I'm back at school on Monday. Fingers crossed I can go back to school on Monday. And we'll go from there. But have a read through it. Any questions, write it down somewhere, and I'll go through it. Okay? Alright, so in your books, can you have the heading print media, print newspapers? Make sure you have today's date. Okay? Make sure every page and every work that we do is dated. Okay? Sorry, I'm going to sneeze. Okay. So, this, as you know, a newspaper is something that is printed regularly. It can be daily, it can be weekly, it can be sometimes monthly, okay? And they are printed on what's on a newsprint, okay? It's like a low-cost paper that is recyclable. Some seafood places still wrap their takeaway foods in newspaper. Sorry, just sneeze again. In newspapers, okay, and some butchers still roll their meat in newspapers to save on recycling and wasting plastic, which is good. Okay, all newspapers are recyclable. Alright, now I need you to definitely write this down. Okay, so there are 3 ways of classifying newspapers. Okay, by their frequency of publication, by their area of distribution, or by their page size. Okay, if we're talking about frequency of distribution, like I was saying before, newspapers can be published daily or weekly. In some instances, they can be monthly, but it's very, very odd. Okay? In regards to areas of distribution, it refers to local, state, or national. So it could be local, Penrith, state, New South Wales, national, Australia, obviously. Alright, and page size. Whether it's a broadsheet, which is the large newspapers that you often see business men and women reading on the train, or tabloids, which are half the size. Okay? Like we have just realized, some of the broadsheets have now condensed their sizes, alright, in order to save some money because the broadsheets were just too expensive. Okay? Can you guys make sure you pause it here and copy that down? Alright, why do you think we should study newspapers? Why do you think it's important, why do you think it's important that we actually read them, that we still have them in existence? Okay, so take a minute out to record in your books why you think we should study newspapers. Alright, so newspapers are still strong 300 years after the first one was produced. In Britain alone, 30 million are sold. And don't worry, don't copy this down, okay? In a recent survey of 16 to 34-year-olds, it was discovered that newspapers were thought to be informative, serious, and influential, more so than radio or television. And 42% agree that newspapers are an important part of daily life. Do you agree with this? Okay? The fact that some people think that newspapers are more informative, serious, and influential. Alright, do you agree that newspapers are an important part of daily life? Can you answer that somewhere in your book, just a piece of paper, or actually preferably in your book, whether you agree with that and why? Or if you don't agree with it, why as well? Alright, it is incredibly very important for you to study newspapers. Lots of people read them and lots of people think that they are important. Before radio and TV even existed and were widely available, newspapers were people's main source of information. During World War II, World War I, even the Vietnam War, newspapers were the main way that people found out about their relatives that were overseas. If you wanted first-hand news, it was in the papers. Okay? Papers are important because if we don't have technology, we're going to have to rely back on papers, and it's important to understand how to read them. Alright, please copy this down, okay? So a broadsheet, traditionally they are bigger in size, but compact versions are now more common. So as I was saying, to reduce money, to reduce cost, the traditional broadsheets are now being condensed. Okay, they have a main focus on the hard news, okay, both national and international, and are often concerned with politics and finance. And they often have separate supplements. So you might see someone reading the massive broadsheets and taking out different, like, thinner versions of that massive broadsheet. So they're different sections. Okay, so it's like the sports is a different type of broadsheet newspaper on its own. Alright, the main difference with broadsheets is that it has really, really formal language. Okay, it is aimed at upper and middle classes. It is very objective. Okay, and it is quite expensive. So $2.50 for weekday editions and $1.50 on Saturdays. Alright, if you need to pause it here and rewind to get all that done, can you please do so? Alright, in your books, I want you to write The Australian, Sydney Morning Herald, and Financial Review. For each of these 3 articles, I need you to kind of dot point why it is a broadsheet, okay? What makes these a broadsheet? Alright, take a couple of minutes to do that now for each of these 3 articles. Alright, a tabloid. So a tabloid reports the news, but it's more light-hearted. The major focus on entertainment, celebrity gossip, and sport. It uses a more colloquial, alright, informal language. And unlike broadsheets, there is just one main newspaper section, so there's no supplements, so there's no opening it and taking out different sections. Alright. It is aimed at the working class and it's more subjective. Okay? It is usually cheaper to buy, and that's what makes these a tabloid. So again, if you need to take some time to pause it and write each of these things, go for it. Alright, for these 3 headlines, okay, again, can you please write, Hey Lara, how's it? Parents offer bribes for care, and the day Sydney melted. Okay, and in dot points again, at least 2 dot points for each article. Can you annotate why this is seen as a tabloid? Alright, local newspapers. Usually towns and villages, usually delivered free to homes, paid for by advertisements, focuses on small town news, aimed at local residents regardless of social status, uses a lot of informal language, alright? So colloquial language, you need to know that word, guys. Colloquial language. Gives information about local events, small issues like traffic and transport, even like pets or something that's happening on in the local community. And there's a large section on local entertainment, community news, local sporting teams, and pubs and restaurants. Again, if you need to pause it here to write all that stuff down, can you please do so? Alright. And lastly for this, okay, I need you again for these 2 articles, so Highland News and the Penrith Press, 2 dot points as to what makes these local newspaper, okay? Is it focusing on local news? What is the local news? And so on. So pause here and if you shut up. Alright, now, in a second, you're going to go up to the visiting teacher and you're going to ask them for a particular worksheet, okay? At the end of the previous flipped lesson, I asked you to grab at least 2 different newspapers. Didn't care what it was, just 2 newspapers, okay? When you ask the visiting teacher for the next sheet, it is going to look like this, okay? So again, you're going to have what makes a broadsheet, what makes a tabloid, and what makes a local paper. Now, the most important part is this, okay? On the back of the sheet, you are going to have this table, okay? You need to choose 4 papers or just swap it amongst yourselves. You need to work out what the cost of that paper was. So newspaper 1, newspaper 2, for each of the 4 newspapers that you will eventually work through, you need to work out the cost. In regards to size, you need to state whether it is a broadsheet or whether it is a tabloid. Okay, based on size. If you want to get technical and measure it, go for gold. Alright. Headlines. I want you to flick through it and write down at least 4 headlines for each of the 4 different newspapers. Okay? I want you to have a skim through it. I want you to see what stories were covered. Were they local news? Were they international news? Were they national news? State news? Okay? Were they comical? What type of stories were covered? Okay? Celebrity gossip. What type of language was used? Was it colloquial? Was it formal? Okay? Give me an example of how you know that. Again, for each of the 4 newspapers. And then, is it a broadsheet? Is it a tabloid? Okay? In regards to the size, I legitimately want you to measure it. Okay? Measure it and then state the size. So how big is it horizontally? Sorry, horizontally. How big is it? Landscape. No, landscape's that way. You can tell I'm not a maths teacher. How was it? Portrait. So portrait, horizontal. Okay? Measure that for me. Once you've done that for each of the 4 newspapers, your job is to share it with me or take a photo of it so I can see it over the weekend and email it to me. Okay, cnohra3@para. Oh look, it's there in the corner. para.catholic.edu.au. Once you've done that, I want you to find me a funny photo that'll make you cry so hard, like the Frank Gallagher one. My class, Frank Gallagher. Okay? Find me the funniest photo that you can, and whoever wins, I will give them a chocolate. Alright? How's that sound? But that is only if every single piece of work up to this sheet of paper is complete. Okay? Enjoy, guys. Hopefully see you Monday. Have a lovely, safe weekend. Okay? Please don't be stupid. Don't be silly. And make sure you complete all the work. Alright? See you guys.